right next.
Next, we have adult education.
And EO is up past her bedtime.
Wait, she's already told me that about 5 times already.
You guys have about 1 minute, 15 seconds, go.
Ready.
Just kidding, take your time.
Well, David broke the
Okay.
computer.
Good.
Good evening, Board President Petchikoff, trustees, Superintendent Maleko. Well, we are honored to do this quick presentation for you on our Dearborn Adult Education Program. And, you know, as we talk about Dearborn Adult Education, one of the things that I'd like to emphasize is, you know, the Superintendent Maleko Student First message is also our message, specifically and clearly with the adult ed learners. Because adult education is a key and crucial component to the success of Dearborn Public Schools as well as the community. We currently have 2,000 plus students in our adult education program. We are the largest in the state of Michigan. And with that, we have 31 teachers who work full-time and part-time with our adult ed students. Our adult ed services aren't just about attaining a GED or learning the English language. We truly focus on improving the lives of our students through multifaceted approach of wraparound services by tying what we do in the Dearborn Public Schools K-12 to what we do with our adult ed learners. The other day, I was in a classroom at Salina Intermediate. There were 23 women, adult ed learners in that classroom, all low intermediate English recent immigrants, learning English, learning daily functions of what it means to support their children. They were talking about purchasing a computer for their child who's attending college. This is a trivial conversation we may have as English speakers who were not forced out of their country and moved to the U.S. as immigrants, moving into the Dearborn area, because the students we have don't just come from Dearborn, but they come from all surrounding areas. And in order for us to do this, we have to work in these areas. And listening to these adult learners talking about computers and the right computer to purchase for their child and learning these different idioms, it was a beautiful thing. But on top of that, our focus also is not just attaining, as I said, not just a GED or attaining English as a second language to be successful, but it's also supplying them with opportunities to attain post-secondary credit and or services at Henry Ford College, our sister school, as well as finding them jobs upon completion of their GED. And through this process, you know, we really focus a lot on supporting them with the social and emotional components with our partner agencies such as Access, so on and so forth. I'm very proud to work with these 3 wonderful educators and professionals here, Iona, Maha, and Adham. As well as, I know there were some teachers here from adult ed earlier, I don't know if they're still around, but they may have left. But they're a very proud group, and they do a lot of great things. And when we talk about students first, I will tell you, seen it firsthand, that these adult learners are getting what they need to take the next step in this great country that they came to. So with that said, I'd like to turn it over to the supervisor, Iona Garrison.
Good afternoon, board members, Dr. Maleko. I'm very happy to be here, and it is a little past my bedtime, but that's okay. Currently, we use 3 grants, or we run on 3 grants. The 107, that's a state grant, that's our largest grant. The other one is the WIOA, and that's the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And the third one is a new one that we got this year, and we're very excited about it. It's part of the 107 grant. It's called Special 107, and this is a grant where we have our current GED students that are taking classes at our site are then also taking classes at the Michael Berry Center, CTE classes. Ms. Maha Mackey worked very hard in getting cohorts for this grant, and we have currently 13 in accounting class, and we have 17 students in the allied health. That doesn't seem like a lot, but the state is ecstatic about those numbers, so we're very, very happy with that. 75% of our funding is based on enrollment and attendance, and then 25% is based on performance. The state has performance measures for Michigan, and we pretty much hit most of the state performances. It is measured by MSG, which is, excuse me, measured skills gain, and the education gain is determined by the NRS, the National Report System. The areas that we have not targeted or met our performance, we are pretty sure this is something that we've struggled for many years. We are pretty sure that the reason why is because of the barriers our students bring, and that it's mostly transportation and childcare. So Ms. Mackey does work very hard to eliminate as many barriers as possible, but they're adults, and sometimes it's very difficult. This year we have also partnered with the district EL department, and they will be providing professional development for our teachers. So the adult ed teachers are getting the same professional development that K-12 teachers get. We're hoping that will also help us bring up our performance measures. You can see the demand for service is on the rise, and the barrier we find when we have is that we don't have enough space to serve more of the community. So we probably could have served more students in 2017 and 18, but we don't have the classroom space. We currently are in Littlefield Church, and then we also are offering classes at different elementary schools as well. The other part of our department that we don't hear too much about is the community ed portion. That's the enrichment classes. We've had over 2,800 students enroll in that. That's when they come after school and they take dance classes, art classes, exercise classes, financial planning classes, and such. These are the students that you see that over 2,000 are adults, and they may not have another chance to walk into our buildings. So we feel that this is a valuable asset to our district, where we welcome in the public where otherwise they would not walk into our building. Ms. Mackey will now talk to you about where we see ourselves going.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maha Mackey, and I am the College and Career Navigator with Adult Ed, and I'll be quick. So as you can see here from the list, these are the partners that we have. This is just some of the partners that we currently have a very strong relationship with. And if we go down the list, you can see that the partners range from for-profit, nonprofit, and some social organization. And every single one of these partners play an integral part in the success of our students. Because when we talk about barriers, these are the partners that we use to basically either eliminate or minimize barriers as much as possible. And I'll speak to that in just a second. Now, our hope when students come into our program and they complete our program is really to enroll in a post-secondary institution or attain an industry-certified program. And some of the programs that, of course, like they've talked before me, would be the ESL or the CTE programs, GED. And then, so once the students walk into our door, imagine if they have an issue, for example, with, say they have a financial hardship. One of our students may have a financial hardship, or they may have social issues at home. These partners becomes essential in minimizing or like really eliminating those barriers. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. The one thing I want to also mention is that the success of our students would not be recognized without the fundamental role of our teachers, their dedication and their commitment to the students. And the EL department, like Ioana had said, has been really instrumental in providing those PDs to our teachers. They're very efficient, very effective, and they're using them in the instruction every single day. And again, as far as the grants go, the grants that we have now, we're also always seeking for new grants for our programs so we can offer an array of programs for our students and giving them options. And lastly, I wanted just to quickly speak about advocacy. There is an event that we're holding. It's called Students Speak on April 23rd, and I would love to see all of you attend that event. It's part of the, it's a statewide advocacy committee, and it's an initiative to really showcase the success stories of students that attend adult education across the state. And really, the stories that we hear is how did adult education impact the lives of these adults. And really, the adults we're educating are the parents of our K-12 students. So these are the adults that come to our door. So whether they're learning English to teach their kids to do homework with their kids, or whether they're trying to get a citizenship or even attain a GED, these are the parents that their success stories really will be reflected in that event, and I'd love to see all of you there. And thank you so much for your time and your support for adults. It is April 23rd. It will be at the lecture hall at the Michael Berry Curie Center, and it will be on a Tuesday from 6 to 7:30. All right, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, before you begin, I have to make another motion, and that is to extend the meeting by 15 minutes. All right, so moved and support. We'll do a roll call with Trustee McDonald,
Yes.
Trustee Barry,
Yes.
President Petlicoff,
Yes.
myself, yes, and Trustee Thorpe.
Yes.
Is Mary Lane still with us?
She's on vacation. She's laying by the pool. One quick question. Oh, I'm sorry, you're not done yet.
I just ultimately, our goal is to create opportunities for anyone who enters our schools and be college and career ready. And before we open it up to questions, I also want to take this moment to introduce Alhem Farhat. She didn't present, but she is our rock. She is the one who does all our testing. She's the one who handles our mayor's reports. She is, has been with Adult Ed for over 18 years, and our team is extremely passionate about what we do. We all love our students beyond, well, I'll just stop because then I'll get all, yes. Any questions?
Just a quick question. Are senior citizens still offered tuition-free enrichment classes?
They were never offered tuition-free. They were offered reduced.
Reduced,
Yes.
okay.
And it's not on all classes. On some, you will see in the brochure where it has full price or residential price, and then the senior citizens are offered on some classes about 20%.
20%,
It depends
okay.
on the teacher because they're contracted. So if they say, I don't want to do that,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, you're mixing
I
up
thought
the-
at one
it's
time
the
it was.
college. The college is,
At one time, or
no,
is
the
it
college
it's
is still
okay.
tuition-free.
I've been off for a little while.
Yeah.
I'm trying
No,
to get back
we
in
never
the swing.
offered tuition-free
Okay.
seniors.
So is
We're
it-
not trying to encourage them to
No.
go to the college, but there's that other opportunity.
Right, right.
One team.
Yep,
Any other
absolutely.
questions?
Anybody?
I just wanted to add one quick thing. I'm sorry, Yohan. We are also following through on a strategic plan with adult education to have a 3 to 5 year plan focusing on our goals and the data. Very similar process that we did in K-12 is on a micro level to fit the strategic plan of the K-12 process. So and the team has been doing an excellent job with that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right,
All
next
right,
item.
now we are on discussion items, and the first is the Brian Whiston dedication. That's Dr. Maleko.
So we'll invite everyone.
So as David's getting that up, as mentioned, the board, I think it was back last June or July, both the Emad Favela and the Brian Whiston, and we were directed, board president at the time, Dr. Mead, and other board members, so let's get this kind of thing moving, and we did. So we've got one approved and the other one moving forward today, and so I'm going to turn it over to David for the beginning part of the PowerPoint as we move forward and talk about Mr. Whiston.
Good evening. So, tonight, really, we saw an outpouring from the community to really pay tribute to an educator and a man who made a difference in the community during his time here with the Dearborn Public Schools. Our school district is filled with names of people who have made differences throughout their time here in the Dearborn Public Schools. Harvey Laurie was the man who oversaw this district when it became the Dearborn Public Schools. He was actually superintendent of the Fortson School District, and when the two districts merged, he was the superintendent at that time. So his name made a significant impact, and his name is remembered. Iris Becker was mentioned earlier, of course. Charles Lindbergh, as you may know, a famed aviator. Our Lindbergh Elementary was one of the very first schools in the country to bear his name. His mother was at the dedication ceremony. So it's not a contest. It's not a contest about who made more or who did what or how they impacted. What this is what we saw tonight earlier. It is about honoring the person who has made that impact, no matter how they did it, as a teacher, as a leader of our country, as a leader of our community, or as a leader of our district. And that's what Brian Whiston, that was his impact on the Dearborn Public Schools, as a leader of our district. I'm not going to go through all of these bullet points here, but during his time here as superintendent, we all know that Brian had led many initiatives and created many programs that have brought the district to where we are today. I think, one of those kind of unsung things that is hard to really put any quantitative measures to is Brian's leadership through one of the most devastating economical times, not only this district, but our state faced. And school districts across the entire state were laying off teachers, were shutting down schools, were scuttling buildings. And Brian was able to negotiate, Brian was able to bring people to the table, and he was able to remain focused on our students and keeping students first and keeping the classroom and protecting that classroom. And so out of all those accomplishments and all those lists of accomplishments that we could go on and name, that's one of those things that I think it's important to remember. And Brian, and so I'll let Glenn jump in.
Let me make a comment on this one. So you were all here in November when MASA came, and it was very emotional for me with Beth being here. And it was 5 years to the day, the exact day when we saw the Facebook when he was here, when he received his award from MASA. And I said this before, but I wouldn't be in this position now if it wasn't for Brian Whiston, my mentor, who helped guide me through not only some tough times, but just the leadership in general. Tough times in the district, but then for me personally, he's helped me get through different things. And it is, as a superintendent, it is a lonely job because there's no one else in the district that truly understands, but he did. And so I could call him no matter what, and I was calling him right up until a week before he, had passed away. And some of you were at the luncheon at the Renaissance, and I just felt honored that it just kind of worked out that it was in Detroit, and that he was getting honored at that same event, and it allowed me to honor him. And for those of you who weren't there, I received 2 ties from him, and I hadn't worn them. I couldn't put them on; they were in my closet, and that was the right time. And we gave him a tribute, and and I wore it in his honor. But he was a great man, a great leader. I'm speaking to the choir here because you all knew him, and David was very eloquent with how he stated that. And naming things, you can't do enough to thank the people that have made a difference for the students, for you as a person. And but we can do this. The Brian Whiston Welcome Center, this is one thing. Maybe it doesn't, just like the Emad Falala or Brian, you can't, all the impact he had, just a name here, but this is a gesture in a positive direction just to recognize the accomplishments he's had in Dearborn schools. And then he was doing great things at the state level for students across the state of Michigan. So I have the utmost respect for him and his family, and he'll always be, him and his family will always be in my thoughts and prayers. And, I know you have the people standing here, and we had people on the committee, but you have many more all throughout that knew the lives that Brian Whiston touched.
So Glenn said it all very well. I'd be remiss just to not share a few photos, just saying that we know that, Brian was a big part of this district, but he was also a big part of this community, and could be found taking part in many community events throughout, the entire city, and doing all those things that a superintendent has to do and is required to do. But of course, we all know that Brian had that serious side. When it came down to doing business, he could do the business that needed to be done. But Brian also, of course, had a little bit of a not so serious side. And
Yeah, I gotta say something on that. He couldn't believe that I actually was one of the, in the Spartan. He didn't think it was me. I wouldn't have done that. I was too innocent, you know, that was his thing. But yeah, I was one of them. And actually, that was Don Meitel's influence there. But if you didn't know, and I learned this when I came to cabinet, whenever he went out of town or something, whoever was the acting superintendent, took over his office. And, you know, I remember Bob Cipriano being so nervous about it. And we went in there, and one time it was the Michigan State in his office. The other was there were people playing like cards or whatever on his table with the feet up, and Bob was just so nervous about it. But again, that's what Brian was. He had a good sense of humor. He was what was it, Shannon, the Snow Lord, according to the students? The
Super Nintendo Whiston, the Snow Lord.
So the first year I became superintendent, there were these things on social media, and it was, it had me and a statue and him, and it was like they wanted him back. Because I don't know if you remember, but he was canceled school like 6-7 days, and I couldn't beat that. Well, now I've kind of cut up to his level. You know, this year we did it, but that's who he was, and there was the pile of snow in his parking lot, and he just was, yeah. But
when he wished cold weather on us when he was on
Yeah.
vacation in Florida.
But we had to mention that side because he worked hard, but he also understood about relationships and having fun with the people that you worked with, so.
so the proposal in front of the board is to name the Welcome Center, the Brian Whiston Welcome Center. Seems appropriate. Brian was a collector of people. Seemed like the right thing to do.
And we figured that's the place now where everyone comes through. This is the first place that people will see when they come, and that's why we felt like we would do that rather than the superintendent complex or anything, because everyone goes through that. They may not come to that office or this office, but they'll all go through that.
Is it just going to be on the interior?
We were looking on the outside, sign outside where the sign is out front, and
Okay.
then one on the inside. I think David that's what we were thinking.
Okay.
And then,
Everyone feel welcome? You need to have a statue with him wearing the sombrero?
oh, yeah. So, there are some other people that were on the committee that are not here. You know, we put this together, but you can see the mayor, Chief Haddad, I got community member Pat D'Ambrosio, and Chief Murray as well. And then, of course, we have people here and some that are not here. So, and I think most people would have signed their name to that if, you know, so we'll bring it.
I was told, I do want us to finish, and I do know we have some commentary, but I do have to make another motion to extend this meeting by 15 minutes.
Thank you.
So do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so. I firsted.
We're just going to do the same.
Trustee McDonald, trustee Barry, yes. Trustee Pelichka, myself, yes, and
Trustee Lane?
She's still there. It's tomorrow.
What a beautiful tribute. And just looking at these photos and how full of life they are, you know, and the impact that he's left.
Yeah, he was a character.
And to make even our person that always makes us laugh, to make you cry. That was beautiful. And so, thank you. Thank you for that.
Are there any other comments? I know that I'm the only one sitting on the board who actually hired Brian.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good job.
Well, his enthusiasm was very apparent when he came and interviewed with us, and it was very striking, his personality. I loved his sense of humor. We understood each other's humor quite well, but quite frankly, what he did for connecting Henry Ford College to the P-12 system far outweighed anything that we could have imagined. Our dual enrollment was creeping along fairly decently, but when Brian came with the proposal for the types of academies that we have now grown and have just exploded in this district, and the opportunities it's offered to our students to walk away with an associate degree of one fashion or another, or a certificate and those kinds of opportunities without any cost to them. We didn't believe it because, as Dave Mustonen said, we were in dire financial straits in 2008. We had real problems, and Brian and the board were met with a lot of issues that they had to work through before we ever got to the point. So the academies were pushed down the road, but it was always his dream, and quite frankly, some of the innovative things that we were able to negotiate contract-wise with our unions, especially, and something that I don't know why other unions haven't picked up on, is they're handling their medical benefits, which is, it was scary for everyone at first, but has now become quite successful. And that program has grown into a wellness program and all other kinds of benefits. The example that Dearborn sets for other districts is really staggering, and I don't understand why we don't have more people walking through our doors just to see what we're doing, quite frankly, because we're doing things that nobody else has even considered. So, and part of that is because of Brian. So I heartily approve of that. All right then, any other commentary?
You summed it up well.
Very good. All right then, next item, please.
Policy updates?
Okay, I'm gonna make this really quick. Oh, we went through several updates.
Wait, we've got,
You know what, trustee?
she's gonna let you do it. Now,
Actually,
Mason,
it's
go.
just one line, that we're just wanted to point out that we're gonna be having it on the agenda for the board to vote on policy 4217 and 7217. Those are both weapons policies. A few months ago, the board approved 3217, so it's the same changes that were approved for 3217 that we'd like to have reflected also in 4217 and 7217. So it's instructional, non-instructional, and administrative. So it's repetitive. So just a heads up that that'll be on the vote for next month.
Thank you.
Sure.
No, I'll wait until it's my turn.
Till the policy or committee reports. Okay,
Right.
next.
All right, next we have Board of Education business. First, we have acknowledgment of correspondence.
Like I said, I got an email from a parent. He came up and spoke, Mr. Kevin Dewey, about the young fives. And then we've got several things at the table, which I haven't opened up yet. So I don't know what's inside of them.
I had a phone call from a parent about an issue with her son, and that's been addressed.
Okay.
And another parent contacted me about another issue, so.
Good. Anybody else have any? All right then, next.
All right, so board member committee and organization reports.
Okay. Policy Committee. We met today, and we talked about several changes, but they were all pretty much technical changes. As was stated by Mason shortly, or just a little bit ago, we also had some other policies that were in the same realm. There was a policy change, but then there's other policies that are so similar, they just might apply to a different group of people or whatever. So those had to apply the same changes to those, and we've done that. We also had policy 5461 and 5460, and those, one was a graduation requirement, and one was early graduation. The early graduation one, that was the last step. We had discussed it previously, so it was just moving it through the system. And the graduation requirement one was that we had to include the word math when it comes to our collegiate academies and our 13-year programs, because it had to have it listed in the 13th year. We were in compliance, and we did it, but it had to be specifically, the word math had to be included in that policy. So that was done. Like I said, most of them they were all technical issues. We had another one, 7540, and that is, it was a technology issue, and the minutes had to match what was in the policy. And then there were two more, and those we had approved them as guidelines before, I'm sorry, we had approved the guidelines as policies. So we had to reverse that because they were guidelines, they were not policies, and the board had approved them as policies. So that was a reversal. And then another one, 7530, there was it was referenced wrong in the guidelines. So it was all technical stuff that had to be cleaned up.
Can I make sure and ask that, because we did get some recommendations for our bylaws when we had MASB here?
Yes.
That we start to
We
try to
discussed those as
incorporate,
well,
yeah,
too.
some of those.
And those will be coming shortly.
Okay.
Now we're trying to clean up some things that need to be
Right,
cleaned up.
right.
but we
Once you
discussed-
get to a point where you
Yep.
feel comfortable, it doesn't have to be done.
We discussed those and also the, what were the other ones?
EOC and harassment, was it?
Yeah.
It was investigations and harassment, that it has my name all over it, and then the
then
attorney
his-
feels it should be designee, or we need to just change it, it's kind of
To
out of
take
date.
the
and-
superintendent out of
And we
the,
do have the list from MASB from Brad.
Okay.
So that was discussed, but
Okay.
that
And
will
we
be
will
coming
be
forward.
Right,
tackling
right,
it, but we're just
down the
trying to
road.
do some
I'll
other stuff.
forward that list.
okay. I just want to make sure that we don't lose our eye on that
No, we
either,
haven't.
because sometimes we forget. Okay, I also had a city relations committee a couple of weeks ago. It was back to like reintroducing ourselves because we hadn't met since last year. So we got back onto the agenda again with the mayor's office in attendance, all of his department heads and the police chief. A lot of the discussion was around traffic issues around the schools, vacant lots. We did bring up the recreational programs and play works that we were hosting here, and to get the director of the recreation department to take a look at what we're doing in the school district to maybe recreate or mimic some of it that doesn't cost a lot at the public school playground, or public playgrounds, so that the students don't have to be strictly on school playgrounds in order to play some of the games, Foursquare and whatnot. We also talked about school security and the continued potential for, if we move forward and can find funding for cameras in school buildings, to partner with the dispatch centers, oversight so that they have real-time eyes in the buildings at some point. But that, while we recognize that that's a long-term view, we still continue to have that conversation, because any changes we make inside of the buildings renovation-wise, we want to make sure we upgrade to a system that can be supported by what the city's system is. We talked about the problem of student IDs at the library. A lot of the students, even though they're issued IDs every year, are going to the school library and cannot be identified because they claim they've lost their ID or didn't bring it or whatever, and so that when there's an issue, the kids don't give a valid name. So we discussed that, as well as the fact that the main library will be closed from May until September for renovations. So that was part of the problem. And then we talked about ways that we can help Henry Ford College look for potential monies in a variety of ways that can help support some of the programs they've got going on. So that was it for that.
A question for you.
Yeah.
When you mentioned that the library is going to be closed, do we need to see what we might be able to do then for
We
our
are doing-
students?
We are doing
for
that,
the
not
end of
for,
the semester?
for finals, yeah.
Good.
We're already looking at alternative spots besides the two existing branch libraries.
Right, okay.
that- From the city. All right, next.
Next, we have board member and superintendent commentary. I do have a comment, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
So I wanted to enjoy every little bit of this meeting and wait till the end of this meeting to say this. I know I've had some conversations with some of you. I know I've been in communication with our president. I will be submitting a resignation. And I know that some of us knew it was coming. I This meeting was so personal to me too, because I did say my first time coming here was the time that I came for Imad, and, you know, my last day here is voting on his resolution, so,
You definitely wanted to be here for
yes.
this
yes.
moment, of course.
So, I know that we'll have many conversations as we have, but I did want to say that for the record, so.
I just
It has been the absolute honor of my life.
And just for the public consumption, as soon as we get the official dated letter, we will be releasing the application process to the public. So, so the clock doesn't start ticking today. This is Trustee Hammoud's announcement of her intention to resign.
That's right. So I'll be working on my
But
letter.
she'll be working on her letter, and as soon as I receive that and disperse it to the rest of the board and we accept it, then you look for a public announcement and the application process that will begin at that time. Thank you, Fudwin. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for making the effort to, I know it's been
Thank you.
probably a real struggle
It has.
to juggle this workload right now.
You'll be
With-
missed.
With honor. Are you sure?
Yes, Trustee Lane would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Trustee Lane.
She made me
like
cry
to-
enough.
I'd like to thank Trustee Hammoud, but before I'm just reminded of the saying about Henry Ford that he was born and died by candlelight. In the case of Trustee Hammoud, I met her by telephonically, and now I'm leaving her telephonically.
That's right, yeah.
That is right.
In that sense, and I wish I could be there to say this, so I just have to make this short because, as they say, the sound is okay, but not the greatest. I've just been so impressed with her intelligence, with her compassion, her preparation from the first minute when she came to ask for the position as board trustee. She showed her energy, her ethics. I'm so proud to have had the pleasure of being on the short road together in life with her during this time. And I just would like to say, General Fedwa or Friend Fedwa, that I'm missing you already, and I'm so sorry to see you go, but I know you can do more at the statewide level than perhaps at our board level. So hugs and kisses to you, and best wishes always.
Thank you. You're not getting rid of me that easily, though, just because we're not at a board meeting. Trustee Lane.
She'll still be wandering around Myers or something.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee
There's no question
Lane.
you'll do us proud on a state
Thank you.
level. So thank you very much for your dedication and what you've done.
Thank you.
And we'll be watching you, and we're expecting great things from you.
Thank you.
Can I also
Okay,
just
yes,
mention,
it's-
appreciate it's almost 4 years now. I think when I just got approved, you came on shortly thereafter, and it's been a great 4 years, and appreciate your outstanding leadership on the board and your guidance and working together, and I know you'll do great things at the state level. I know you'll always be there for Dearborn and our
Absolutely.
students, so thank you for all that you've
Absolutely.
done.
Thank you for allowing me to work with all of you.
All right, any more commentary for the evening? Because we're going to have to call for time if we don't.
I need to say one thing real quick, I'm sorry. But I just wanted to remind everyone that we are a service industry. A couple of the interactions that I've had with parents recently have been that we have neglected to do something, or I just want everybody to always keep in mind that we are here to serve our parents, our community, our students. We need to do that with a smile. We can't always give them exactly what they want, but we need to concentrate on the service part of the industry that we do. And remember that they are our customers. The parents, and our first line is generally the secretaries and sometimes the bus drivers. They need to just take care of our customers on a daily basis, every day.
Thank you for the reminder, Trustee. All right, then.
And with that,
request,
Oh, I still have to read
Yes.
more.
Yeah.
Request for information and or
I have
future
one of
agenda
those
items.
too, I'm sorry. I just wanted to know, it has been brought to my attention that we do have a relatively large portion of our buses, or of our special needs buses are provided by outside services.
by Trinity.
Right, by Trinity. And I think it's 33%, so about a third of them. But it has also been brought to my attention that sometimes they are late and sometimes it seems to be habitual. And these students in particular, if they are off their schedules, it rocks their whole world. So I think it's important that we need to, I'd like to know how often they are late, if there's particular routes that run, because they are servicing our students and we're paying them to service our students. I want to make sure that we're getting our money's worth and we're taking care of our students. These are vulnerable students, and it really does affect their lives when their schedules are affected.
It's a fair question.
All right, anything else?
That's it.
Anybody else?
Future meeting days, Monday, March 18th, 2019, HFC meeting at 7 PM in the Rosenau Boardroom at the Administrative Center and Conference Center, Henry Ford College. Monday, April 8th, 2019, P12 Board of Education meeting at 7 PM at the Administrative Service Center in the Frank Franchi Boardroom. And Monday, April 15th, 2019, HFC meeting, 7 PM in the Rosenau Boardroom at the Administrative Services and Conference Center, Henry Ford College.
We are adjourned.
I'm glad you speak fast.